All right, to discuss this and much more, I have the managing consultant, RTC Advisory Services, Dr. Vincent Nwani, and the immediate past president of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, Professor of Economics, Segun Ajibola, is in the studio live here to look critically at this topic, looking at the budget. Vincent, let me start with Vincent. Now, Vincent, we're looking at 10.59 trillion naira budget. It's been signed into law. Yes, coming back to the January-December circle has been commended. What's your direct reaction to this development?
Of course, the first intervention is to congratulate Nigeria and all the stakeholders, including governments, federal government, the National Assembly, for making this happen. The last time we saw this was in 2007. I think that should be about 7, 8, or 9 years ago. And now we've returned to full year. You know, the last time we saw the budget being ready, signed into law before the 1st of January 2007, and this is very impressive in terms of timeline. So the next work, all of us need to do, the media, the analysts like me, we need to continue to follow up with the executive and also for National Assembly to ensure that this budget is actually implemented, because that is where development will happen. The judicious implementation of this budget from January 1 is very, very important, especially the capital side of the budget. Be it allocation to power and housing, be it to works and housing, power, defense. You know, we need to make sure that this budget is implemented, and also to see the upside that we're going to receive from it. This is not the time to criticize the budget or to look at the assumptions that may happen or may not happen. It is now law, and I think the most important thing now is for us to live with it, you know, and take the good out of it, to say, okay, we are getting it earlier than usual. What positives can we make out of it?
All right, great. Now, let me talk to Prof. Now, Prof, what has been worrisome, or what analysts have been talking about since the signing of this document, is 2.7 trillion naira for debt servicing. Everyone is worried about the issue surrounding debt. Though we had the president of the Senate saying that the finance bill, sharing contract, and all of that to make government make more money is is already on the pipeline. Now, what do you make? How do you see us bridging this gap?
Deficit budgeting as a strategy for developing an economy is not a bad idea in itself. You drive the deficit through both local and foreign borrowings. So the first question is your accessibility to that funding to bridge the gap. The second issue is the cost of deficit budgeting to the economy as a whole. The third issue is what benefits do we derive from the implementation of the budget that will enable us to look back and conclude that it's been a worthy exercise to borrow to drive the budget. So the various arms of government, and one is happy with what is coming from the Federal Land Revenue Service to drive revenue for the government, because it's one thing to sign the budget, either surplus or deficit. It's another thing to implement the budget. Whatever benefits Nigerians are looking up to will come from implementation, not just from signing the budget. So funding must be available. So if we drive revenue, at the end of the day, mind you, deficit budgeting in itself is just a proposal. At the end of the day, if we drive revenue, we can even end up with a surplus budget. So if, and one is praying, there will be no major negative developments
globally
at the global oil market.
Globally.
So if we are able to sustain, and even we witness improvement in the price of crude, as stated in the budget, which is still okay as of today, then if we are able to expand it so that will give us substantial revenue and Also, mind you, about 60% of our revenue is coming from that source. So if locally we're also able to expand the tax net, and we're able to drive either company income tax, either personal income tax, either capital gains tax, or tax headings, if we're able to drive that, then at the end of the day, we may be able to bridge that gap. But if we are unable to bridge the gap, but we ensure judicious use of whatever we borrow, either foreign or local, to run the budget, then the end will justify the means. And the benefits we'll be able to derive from the budget, even in terms of the financial benefits, will more than compensate for that 2.7 trillion naira that has been proposed for debt service.
I come back now. Let me ask Vincent the next question. Vincent, let's look at the fundamentals now. Crude oil production at 2.18 million that's per barrels per day. Now increase the oil benchmark to, it was 55. It was now at 57. Now, let's look at inflation at 10.81%. Already we have it hitting 11.85%. Vincent, what's your reaction to all of these fundamentals as they surround implementation of this document?
My reaction remains what it has always been, that the 2020 budget is predicated on some unrealistic assumptions, even from the day those assumptions were conceived. You know, for instance, the average crude oil production in Nigeria for 2019 have been between 1.8 million barrels a day and 1.85 million barrels a day. And the assumption, or the budget assumption this year is saying that we're going to produce over 2.1 million, I think, 2,150,000 barrels per day. So, ab initio, we're already losing well over about 300,000 barrels, and that is going to deepen the deficit level, you know, the revenue deficit you just mentioned. Also, looking at it or attacking it from the price of crude oil, you know, currently you see that the gap between a benchmark of 57 or 56 and what is trending now, a little bit above 60 is not so much. So the buffer is very small. Any shocker from the Middle East or elsewhere, or even US pumping more, will completely take the fuel price and the crude price, you know, down, you know, which will put this budget into further crisis. And you mentioned the price level. Today, the National Bureau of Statistics, or yesterday, released the November number for inflation, putting it at 11.85%. That is 19 months high. And this is not surprising again. Again, this figure is well above the 2020 budgetary benchmark. You know, and the projection is very clear that inflation will continue to rise, at least over the next few months. Looking at the border closure, looking at the lower interest rates we're seeing in the market, loan-to-deposit ratio issue of CBN and commercial bank at 65%, moving to 70% next year, making it easier and faster for private sector to borrow, and some other intervention funds flowing across the country, and at the same time, food issue as a result of insecurity and everything. So, but like I said before, this is not the time to say, okay, correct this or correct that. You know, the budget has been passed into law. We have taken all the concerns about revenue issues and everything, and people keep on celebrating the newly passed finance bill. You know, that is an effort; it's not an outcome already.
Okay.
But we're already. It's like eating our antelope when the hunter have not even got to the bush.
Okay, Vincent. Now back to the studio. I want us to take it from where Vincent stopped, talking about the inflation figures, which I know you've also read. You're a professor in economics, and we've seen what's been happening with regards to border closure and other issues surrounding the economy, not being able to import and export. Some say it's positive, some say it's negative. Rural inflation on the high side, almost all the fundamentals being on the high side. Prof, what do you see to this as we move to December? And on the monetary side, how do you think this will affect or shape their decisions?
Well, you know, the type of inflation we are confronted with as a country, as at now, is more of cost push inflation. And where is the cost? Pushing the price level from basic necessities, especially food. Border closure, we've said it even by this particular platform before. Nobody will fought the argument in support of border closure. There is no country that will encourage illegalities around its border. But the problem with us as a people is we hardly take care of what lawyers call the unintended consequences of certain policy initiatives. We knew, or we should have known, that we will close border. What efforts did we put in place? Immediate, medium, long term, to remedy the likely negative impact of that closure. Now look at rice, which crept into our dining table some decades back as staple food, with almost all Nigerians seeing rice today as staple food. The price has doubled. And there had not been any, the increase we've seen in local production of rice cannot match the 200 million population of Nigerians. Other complementary, competitive products, yam, grains, cassava, we have not substantially increased the production. So inflation will definitely rise as a matter of course. And that is what is happening now. And inflation, like one of the former US presidents said, is the world #1 enemy. And in our situation, when we are confronted with inflation, we have unemployment. Economists call that the twin evils. So that is the situation we found ourselves. So we now need to sit down and look at the policy initiatives we need to take to increase supply of basic necessities, especially food.
So increasing output is what we need to do now.
Increase output in the short run, immediate. Otherwise, like the last commentator said, we continue to witness that significant rise in inflation for the next couple of months. And if we don't do anything about it, it will continue to worsen the general welfare standard of an average Nigerian, which itself is not the aim and is not the wish of the president in signing the budget via a speech yesterday. But we need to put certain things in place so that we match plan with implementation. We match whatever we propose with action. So that is where we find ourselves. And if we do not stem that cost push inflation now, it will bounce on overall cost of production. And by that happens, the position of the economy becomes much more complicated. And nobody prays for another recession.
We shouldn't have another recession at this time. Prof, thank you very much. Really interesting. Professor Segun Ajibola, the immediate past president of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, breaking it down. I also had via Skype Dr. Vincent Nwani, who is the managing consultant, RTC Advisory there. Thank you very much, Mr. Vincent. It's always nice having you talk to us on the show.